In this one, we're going to be talking about the largest survival knife skills. Now, some of these, or most of these, your ordinary 5-inch bushcraft knife can do, but there are some of these that are exclusive to the big boys. So one of the first things that the large survival knives or large bushcraft knives excel at is chopping. Get myself a stick to demonstrate some of these skills with. There we have it. I mean, even just making the stuff that I need to make for this video is made easier. So what I want now is basically to clear some of this into a bit of a table. So yeah, my hatchet can do this, but the whole point is these are some skills that you can do with a large survival knife, and I don't need to bring my hatchet. Alright, so now I've got my seat slash table. We'll talk about the first thing, which is the most important thing, which is knife safety. Now, generally, there's two things you need to be aware of, yeah? One of them is called the blood bubble, which is, whenever you're using a knife, nobody should be in the vicinity of a bubble around your body that is roughly your arm's width, yeah, plus the knife away, yeah? Just in case anything happens, it shouldn't do, because proper knife control shouldn't be any wild swings like this, yeah? You should never ever do that, but just in case you're fighting a knot and for some reason it just pop, if someone stood there, they're going to get it, which is what you don't want to do. So the blood bubble is the first thing, yeah? It's what I teach all the young people. First thing is blood bubble. If someone was sat on this log with me, they need to be their arm's width and my arm's width away, right? So our hands can't touch. If we both magically went like that at the same time, and the knives touched or the hands touched, you're going to gash someone's hand, so you don't want to be doing that, right? So blood bubble is that, yeah? All the way around you. No one comes within this vicinity of you whatsoever. The next most important thing, which is safety for yourself, is something called the blood triangle. Now, the blood triangle is an area on human anatomy, yeah, that you've got some big major arteries running down, yeah? The insides of your legs, from there, the inside of your groin, all the way down there is a femoral artery, and then it comes up to your belly button and somewhere just under your rib cage. That is the blood triangle. Never ever take a knife. It's mainly your legs, the inside of your legs. If you get a gash in your femoral artery, yeah, you bleed out in, it's a decent one, 3 minutes. You won't get out of the woodland before you die, yeah? Full tourniquet, full jaw. You just do not do it. It is one of the #1 things that you never ever do. Then there is also a big major artery that runs under your arm here, but it's very unlikely you're ever going to take a cut or anything like that. And then next is the golden rule. Now, this one simple rule will lead you to never ever cut yourself if you follow it at all times. And the golden rule is never ever ever put any part of your body at any time in front of the blade. It's as simple as, if I'm cutting this way and my knee's there and I'm going like that, there's a part of my body in front of it, yeah? If I am holding the wood this way and I'm cutting this way, there's a part of my body in front of it, yeah? If I'm cutting this way, there's no part of my body in front of it, yeah? And if I'm cutting this way, there's no part of my body in front of it. So it's very simple, very easy to follow, but even I find sometimes when you're working on a little piece and you're like, oh, I'll just get that, I think, oh, that part of my hand is in front of where the knife is going. So you could just get a little nick on there, yeah? Or if it's normally just general, like, unusual movements, like one time I cut my hand with an axe because I was using the axe and I was rolling the blade to carve into something this way. And the top of my hand here was just poking over, and the blade just came through, went through the wood a little bit and just nicked it. So yeah, I've fallen foul of it a few times. I've cut myself, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, if you never have a part of your body in front of the blade, you never can cut yourself. And then the next thing is what is cutting and how does it work? Because if you understand the actual mechanics of what cutting is, it makes cutting easier, right? So basically, if I chew this up, right, you can see in there, yeah, the wood grain and the fibers, right, run in lengths this way, yeah, like that, look, yeah. So if I want to cut down, I'm cutting against loads of little bits of string that are layered, yeah. So it's not going to be as effective cutting down directly through it. Cutting this way though, you're going to be going through smaller and smaller portions of each one, yeah. So that is not going to work. That is, because I'm taking the layers of fibers apart, yeah, rather than just trying to compress them together and drive the blade through. The same thing happens is if you put the fibers under tension by bending the stick, this is dead, like that, so they are naturally wanting to pry apart, yeah, and then I put a nick in the top. Look how easily it splits, yeah. So you can manipulate the wood just the way that I took that log, that branch off the tree there, yeah. I bent it, put all the fibers under tension, and then as the knife struck the back of the fibers, each fiber went like that, yeah. And it's how you can get a mechanical advantage on cutting wood. It's the same with splitting. So when you split something, you want to try to split down the grain, yeah? And different woods grains, they'll split differently depending on how tight the grain is and how fine the grain is, but knowing and how straight the grain is. Then you've got basically a very, very fine edge, right? That basically just parts the bits of wood. The finer the edge, the better, but then it dulls easier and there is lots in this. You don't, you know, a knife that's got an edge that's atoms thick, like obsidian, yeah, is going to be incredibly sharp, but you put it against something hard, it's going to lose that edge quite quickly. So that's just a little brief overview on basically, it's a stupid question, but how cutting works, yeah, and how you can utilize, especially with wood, right, the properties of the wood against itself and help you along the way and make things easier. So using that, yeah, basically, long story short, the most effective cutting angle is on about a 45 degree. Bella, move. See, blood bubble. Yeah, the dog's always got a habit of trying to walk in front of me when I'm doing stuff, yeah. Roughly a 45. You want to take less material off, you bring it back and it'll go along the grain. You want to take more material off, or you'll hear people say it's biting too deep. It means they've got the blade on too much of a deep angle and you're going through more material, but you've got to apply more force. So next we're going to move on to knife grips, right? Now, generally there's 4, maybe 5 different knife grips. You've got your forehand grip, which is where the blade is facing this knuckle, like you'd use a hammer. And then you've got your reverse grip, where the blade is facing the web of your hand here. And then you have got your side grips, where the blade then is facing this knuckle, and then your other side grip where your blade is facing this knuckle. So if you hold your hand like that, the 4 points, yeah, this one, this one, this one, and this one are your knife grips. And it starts from the standard grip, which is the forehand grip, right? Now, depending on what you're doing and how you need to hold the knife to get the best amount of force with control is the best grip that you should be using, right? So for example, if I wanted to do something like a push cut, which is the first cut we're going to talk about, right? Which is where basically you just drive the knife forwards through the material that way. Yeah? To take material off, yeah? I'm going to use that one. I'm not going to use, yeah, a side grip to push cut because that's just weird. I'm not even going to try, yeah? So you're naturally going to want to orientate that way because I can produce the most force in this cutting angle here this way, yeah? The second cutting technique that we'll go through, and I'll go through these in a little bit more detail, yeah? Say for example, a chest lever, which is where I'm going to apply lots of force through the wood by using this technique with my back, right? I'll go through it again, yeah? But same again, I'm not gonna use the forehand grip to do that because the angle of it's weird, yeah? It doesn't feel right. I don't feel strong here. I feel strong in a side grip, which is where it's facing that knuckle, so I can bring it across and remove lots of material. And the last one is where you choke up on the blade, right? And you grab the blade like this. Now this is for finer detailed work, so the large survival knives, I will admit, are not as good for this, but you can do some really fine, intricate carving tasks with these if you use this, but I will admit it is not as effective as the smaller ones. But the chamfer on the handle here, where the handle comes down to the blade, is there and is actually designed for a comfortable hand position on there, and that's how you want to hold it. So yeah, don't worry about the semantics of the grip too much. If I say use this grip, use that grip, blah 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 blah, doesn't matter. Like I say, it's only where you feel like it's the strongest and you can produce the most force under control with the blade. That's the most important thing, but you'll naturally move your hand around the blade in such a way. There's certain grips that you don't want to, or certain hand positions that you don't really want to use the knife in anyway, which is anything to do with this way or that way, yeah? Very rarely, the only time that I will ever flip the knife around and hold it like that is if I want to put it away safely, or you know, something's in the way, I need to get the blade away from the front of my body, like that, yeah? Very rarely I do it. Normally it's literally just if, I don't know, something happens in front of me, I need to quickly just get the knife away, just, yeah. But it's very rare, so don't worry about it. So now we actually go on to the cuts. I touched on before the push cut, right? So the push cut is either with a bent elbow pushing this way and you are bending and extending your arm that way, yeah? Or a stronger push cut is where you tuck the workpiece under your armpit and you use all of your shoulder and your chest like that, yeah? Like that. Combination of both, fine. This is not as strong, and you're extending your elbow. This is stronger, you can remove more material. The next one is the chest lever, and the chest lever personally is one of my favorites and my go-tos, right? So what you're going to do is bring the workpiece under your arm, bring your knife close to your body, right? And it's a small and very safe action because you can't overextend or overshoot this because you're not pushing the knife away from your body in any way, shape or form. What you're going to be doing is round your shoulders in slightly, dig the knife into the workpiece slightly, orientate it at your 45, yeah? And then you're going to pull your shoulder blades back and open your chest, so you're recruiting all the big muscles on your back, your lats, your rhomboids, your trapezius, everything, plus a little bit of external rotation from the shoulder, yeah, and a little bit of tricep, so it looks like that. Yeah, I've not got much on this too deep. Let me try the other side. There. You see? So even if I put a lot of force into this, I can remove a lot of material quite quickly. And when the knife shoots out, it's locked in place. So I'm locking my elbows into my side. So even if it, that's as far as it goes. It's very safe. You shouldn't be using your knife because of the blood bubble in close proximity to anybody else. But if ever you are, for whatever reason you need to, which you shouldn't do, that's one of the safer ones. Chest lever, one of my favorites. The next one is something called the knee draw, right? So what you're gonna do is get your knee. If you're down at the camp or you're down on one knee, it's easier. place this part of your wrist, the bendy part of your wrist, on your knee, and it's locked off and the blade's held still. And then all you're going to do is then pull the workpiece along. And it's good for taking large amounts of material off in a linear fashion along a piece of work, which is what you might be wanting to be using this for. You can just do that, but you can't put as much purchase, and the knife is flying around, which you don't want to do necessarily. So yeah, knee draw, I don't use it too much. Some people use it on there. Yeah, I can see how that can work. I can get more power, more purchase on there. And all you do is bring in the workpiece along. And this will be good for taking like material off the length of a piece. But the spine, if it's sharp on your knife, you can use like that. Either or. Get to that knot, see how strong this is. See there? Yeah, you don't want to be doing that. But you see here now, I can create mechanical leverage by pulling this way and pulling this way. That's deep though in that wood. But yeah, change my angle. Do you know what? That's got actually quite a lot of force on there. Not many use cases where you're going to need to use this. You can hear that, listen how much force is having to go through there. But that's actually quite powerful. Take that off. But yeah, that's what we're stopping it, that big ass knot. Now the next one is called a draw cut. Now I don't like this one. I don't think you can use it. I don't think you need it. But it is a type of cut. You pull the blade toward yourself, all right? And I don't like it, I'm not gonna lie. But some stipulations that can make it safer is you orientate the knife in this direction. So even if the blade comes toward yourself and it slips, the handle hits you first, yeah? But even with the smaller bushcraft knives, which is what normally you see people doing this with, it's like that, yeah? But there is, like my arm is there, yeah? It's just not a good idea, but you'll choke up on the blade slightly, pull it down, and you cut this way, yeah? Using either your chest, and that's pointy, so I'm not going to apply much force. Using either your chest or, but no, it's just an awkward angle. You're bringing the blade toward yourself. There's not enough control for me, so that is the draw cut, but it's a negative. But this one though is very good. It's what I call the shin press. May have another name. Same again. Your body is behind, my foot is out of the way, the knife is there, and all you're going to do is use your entire body weight to go down and shave. So it's very controlled. Like you can see there, look, the workpiece is there. Sometimes you can do it on a smaller workpiece, it'll touch the bench, which is why I wanted a flat bench, but that is extremely controlled, and normally we use this one, or I use this one personally, for feather sticks. But you can apply significant amounts of force onto the blade with a lot of control, which is, to me, what makes a knife cut a good knife cut. This is another thing with the larger knives is I can start at the front of my blade and I can slice down and through, slice down and through. So I have got lots of blade real estate to work with here. I mean, this is green wood, so it's not feathering nicely, but you can see them curls coming. Nice, thin, fine curls, because I can get the angle. Oh yeah, and it's in, I haven't been through none of these grips, but most of them are all intuitive, you'll know. So yeah, this is what I call the shin press, because you're pressing down your shin. Even if the knife slips, it's going to hit the wood. So you're good, you're safe, everything's out of the way. Now this one isn't exclusive to the big knife, but in my opinion, the big knives do it better because of the slicier blade profile. I call it the baton cut, and the name basically tells you what it is. I want to put a notch on here. I don't want to fuck about. Yeah, trying to carve into the wood against all of the grains of the fibers in the way that I spoke about, which is not ideal. I'll get my knife, place it on there, and with my nice thick 5mm spine, just twat the back of it. And now that's drove the knife halfway through this piece of wood. So if I want to, I could simply just do it again and put a nice clean flat edge on my workpiece like that to do something else with. Or I could have stayed halfway through and then carved into the cut as a stop cut to make one of my notches. So the baton cut is one thing which is not solely exclusive to the big bushcraft knives, but obviously the big bushcraft knives, I just think do it better because of that thinner blade that goes in, whereas the shorter bushcraft knives have got the wedgier Scandinavian. It just kind of like mushes the wood apart, which is not ideal. But these next two cuts are solely exclusive to the big bushcraft knives. Many a time you will have to delimb and process something like this down, yeah? Now, depending on the size of the stick or what you're delimbing, I mean, this is nasty, yeah? It's full of shit. Two cuts come in nice. One of them I call the flick chop, which is basically like this, yeah? Now you can do this kinda with the smaller ones, but once you get past anything bigger than this little twig on the side here, yeah, it starts to lose its effectiveness. But all you're gonna do is follow the branch, yeah, and just give it a little flick. See? All these nasty little nodules on here. Flick, flick, flick. It just, the weight of the blade just takes them all off, and you have got the length that you can kind of do this little bit of finessing with the smaller bushcraft knives, but you don't have the length of the blade, you don't have that leverage and that rotation on the knife there. So the flick chop is very good. This is the bigger one now, so this is where the other one won't be able to get through there. And the main thing is, as you can see, I'm keeping the workpiece on the outside of my body, and the flick is very small and it's very controlled. But as soon as we start getting to the bigger stuff like that, you start increasing the power of your flicks. And if you do use a smaller knife, because it hasn't got the weight, you're going to have to start putting too much force behind it, which then you lose that control. So quite quickly with the flick chop, large bushcraft knives exclusive, is I use it all the time. It's very useful, just for taking, you know, something down like that, all right? And the last one is what I call the chop cut. Same again, large bushcraft knives exclusive. You got to make sure, obviously, all of your body's out. We've been through this, out of the way. Yeah, and we'll take it down to this direction, and it'll just come off. So quite quickly, if you want a piece of wood, you can simply just bend it, large bushcraft knife, chop, boom, delimb, and then take the top off. Move, Bella. See, she's sneaking in my blood bubble. I can hear her. Same again, that 45-degree angle. Like, this is not going to be easy to chop cut off, right? I could just put it down on a workpiece and just chop it there. But if you don't have a workbench, sorry, like what I've done there, which is a larger bushcraft knife exclusive, because I could clear it off. Same again there. Now, the angle that I take this off now, yeah, is going to be important. If I hit it too hard this way, it's going to push it that way, and I don't want to do that. I want to go down at that 45, yeah, get through all them fibers nice and quick. Boom. See, it's a single clean swipe all the way through. You don't want to try to do this with anything too big, yeah? The large bushcraft knives are a hybrid between a hatchet, a forest hatchet or a small forest axe, and a bushcraft knife, which is why I like them so much. And also you can use them as a draw knife, which I'll show you next. Right, so let's say I wanted to make a spoon, right? I've got a piece of wood like this, is the piece of sycamore. I want to make a spoon. I do that. I do that. It starts going through, yeah? So batoning, same again, the large bushcraft knives excel at, because it's got that thinner blade geometry. It gets through and slices. You've got more control. It's less wedgier, but on some of your smaller pieces like this, the wedge doesn't really matter. It needs to go through it at a nice angle, yeah, to be able to control the contour around that notch, for example, there, yeah? And then, I mean, that's not going to be ideal for a spoon, but I'll try do this one. So that's very thin, quite difficult to work with. So I'll place my knife roughly where I want that, and then I can finesse. No, it needs to be on that angle there. This is also why I prefer to baton over. See, it's starting to ride off to one side, so I'm rotating the knife using the forest axe for this. But even say there, right? Nice and thin, I think, okay, yeah. It's as far as I want to take it. You'd have to use a hatchet for a lot of this, whereas I can get away with just using the large bushcraft knife. Especially if you bring a piece of leather with you. I've got a piece of leather in my kit. It's just a scrap piece of leather off the couch. I can now use this, rest it up against my leg, no vitals in play, and it's got the control, the downward force, the downward pressure, and I can hold the blade. I can take smaller shavings off and I can decide where it's going. So for making your things like your spoon blanks, friction fireboards, where you need that nice flat surface, yeah, you can see, look at that, yeah, I can hold there, I can hold there, I can push, I can pull, but if I was to pull this toward myself, I'd want this this piece locked in place to cleanly draw, but it would act like a plane, all right? But you get the idea. That'll be ready now for a bow drill. It's not that I won't be using my normal size bushcraft knife again, because I love it. Yeah, it's brilliant, right? But if I want to come out, make a video, right? And I need something to, you know, chop a little bit of wood, to go through some bigger stuff. And I think I'm gonna need my hatchet and my knife. Then I want to come up with this pack. I want it light, right? Then I've got to take my hatchet. I mean, just look. I could take a bigger bag, but I don't need to. That's the whole point, right? For me personally, like I say, I'm not saying that necessarily that the big knife is the be all and end all, because it's not. But the hatchet goes in there, right? And my knife then goes in there. And it's just a ball ache taking all the tools out when I can quite easily just take the big one, and it does both jobs. I've got a saw on there, which is a Leatherman, pretty much. So if I do need to do any saw cuts, but I don't even find myself doing saw cuts, man. I just do a little baton cut and then boom, just, you know what I mean? Like, it's just through experience of using these that if I have got all three of these on me, and the saw, yeah, I just use the knife for everything, the big bushcraft knife. So it's not that it's necessarily better, but it's just easier. And it just is. I'm sorry. But I will still be using my normal bushcraft knife. I'll still use my hatchet. I'll still use my saw. But on trips where I just want to come out, have a quick fucking blast in woods, make a video, make a few traps, do some bits and bats. It's literally a piece of piss. So next, we're going to go on to some finer knife carving techniques. Because I've got two cuts, or two or three cuts left. I call them finesse cuts, and I'll show you that now. Finesse cuts are going to be ways that you hold the knife for really, really fine control. Even such fine control that I can carve everything that I need to carve on one of these, even with the bushcraft survival knife.